On 13th September 1985, Nintendo released the first Super Mario Bros. Game for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It released to unanimous critical acclaim for its revolutionary gameplay, graphics, at the time anyway, and catchy music, giving birth to one of the most iconic franchises of all time and one which dominated the 1980s gaming market. Although Sega were pretty successful when it came to arcade games, they just could not compete with the NES and Mario's selling power. Seeing this success, Sega pushed internally to create a mascot who could rival Nintendo's Super Mario in terms of popularity. Hundreds of different designs were submitted before they eventually settled on an anthropomorphic blue hedgehog. His name was Sonic the Hedgehog. The very concept behind Sonic and his speed-oriented platforming was quite ironically something that was brainstormed by Yuji Naka while attempting to speedrun the original Super Mario Bros. Back then, games had no save systems, which meant that players were starting from scratch every time they booted up their console. As a result, players would become more and more skilled with the levels every single time they played, and this was the idea Sega wanted to take to the next level with Sonic. After a few months of development, Sonic the Hedgehog was officially released in 1991 to incredible reception, with gamers astonished at how fun the process of rolling around at the speed of sound really was. Does it hold up today? Let's begin with the plot. A mad scientist who goes by the name of Dr. Ivor Robotnik, or Eggman, is looking for the Chaos Emeralds, 6 gemstones which are said to have incredible power, and is transforming animals into robots called bandits to serve as his lackeys. As Sonic, your job is to stop him. It's a very basic plot and one that's mostly told through the game manual. I missed those, by the way. What happened to them? Because there are no in-game cutscenes to be found. It was a time where plots were basically non-existent in gameplay, so this doesn't surprise me. However, I do like how each level slowly becomes more and more mechanical in nature, as if they signify you're getting closer and closer to Dr. Eggman's base of operations. Speaking of aesthetics, the pixel art on Sonic 1 is top notch. There's so much life and energy that radiates throughout every stage, and it still looks great by today's standards. Sonic's sprite in particular conveys his character perfectly through his in-game animations. You can tell so much effort was put in just to make Sonic as appealing as possible in spite of the limitations of the time, and it definitely paid off. This is some of the most fluid animation in this series even to this day. The music is also pretty fantastic if I do say so myself, with Masato Nakamura being the composer of the Blue Bear's first ever adventure. And despite it being its first ever video game OST, and having to work with the Mega Drive's limited sound font, he delivered. Oh boy, he delivered. Every piece complements the environment wonderfully, and some real classic tunes were born, such as the iconic Green Hill Zone theme. However, none of this would mean a lot if the game wasn't incredibly fun to play and control, and well... As this was the first game in the series, controls were relatively simple. Sonic can move left or right, jump, and roll to a ball to rapidly gain speed on steep slopes. This is the defining trait of all the Mega Drive 2D games in general, earning your speed through mastery of the level layouts. Sonic is decently quick on his feet as is, but by knowing when to roll and by grabbing the occasional speed tree power up, you can blast process your way through some of these levels, and it never gets old. If you're wondering how health is treated in this game, look no further than the rings scattered along the level. As long as Sonic is holding one ring on his person, he can take a hit. However, doing so will cause the rings on his person to scatter on the screen. You can drive a shield through these monitors scattered through the levels to take a hit with no financial loss, or grab an invincibility power up to become impervious to damage for a short period of time. All things considered, this is a pretty ingenious system, and I imagine it was made this way to prevent frustrating deaths from running into things you couldn't see coming. There are 7 zones in Sonic 1, with each consisting of 3 acts in direct confrontation against Dr. Eggman at the end of every third level. While the bosses are simple in design and nothing really special, it's neat that Eggman fights you head on every time instead of relying on some underling or grunt to do the job for him, like Bowser does with his minions. One thing you may have noticed is that my footage is primarily based on 2 stages, which are Green Hill and Starlight Zone. And that's because Sonic 1's level design kind of operates like an energy drink, with insane highs, but depressing lows. The game starts off really strong with Green Hill, probably the level we spent the most time on in development, and you can tell. Lots of ways to reach the goal, fast paced action, just a good opening level all round. And then we go straight to Marble Zone, the complete opposite of what Green Hill strive to be. Slow blocky platforming, lots of waiting on blocks, it's just not really that fun to play. I'd be hard pressed to find someone who calls Marble Zone the best zone in Sonic 1 unironically. Spring Yard Zone tries to capture that Green Hill vibe with a bit more speed, but there's still a lot of slow blocky platforming that just isn't that interesting at all. But following that is probably the worst zone in the game, Labyrinth Zone. Not only is Sonic much slower on the water, but he can only last in the water for so long because of the lack of oxygen. It sucks when you're looking for a bubble, the drowning mechanic keeps in, and you run out of time and drown. Not a very fun level to replay. Thankfully, Starlight Zone captures the magic of Green Hill much better than any level before. With tons of ways to go fast, lots of routes to explore, it's a really fun stage. But then we get to the final stage, Scrap Brain. And while I do like the intense platforming and challenge it offers, it is a really unforgiving level. If you fall to the lower route at any time, you're probably gonna die. Another critique I have is regarding the special stages. If you manage to reach the end of a level with 50 rings, you're able to jump into a big ring and enter a special stage, which grants you the possibility of nabbing one of the Chaos Emeralds. First of all, reaching the end of a level with 50 rings is much easier said than done because you lose all your rings upon taking damage, meaning if you fuck up near the end, it's back to square one. Secondly, the Sonic 1 special stages just aren't my cup of tea. Jumping into the big ring transports you into this rotating maze, with your end goal being to pray you last long enough to land the emerald while rolling the gold bumpers that kick you out. I don't like these special stages particularly much because it feels like I'm at the mercy of the stage when they were playing, making it impossible to get the emeralds the same way every time. Not only do they feel luck based to me, but there's really no incentive to collect them, because in Sonic 1 there's no super form. The only thing you get is a slightly different ending with a bit more flowers, and honestly, it just doesn't feel fulfilling to collect them knowing that the reward is so meaningless. After all this, what are my thoughts on Sonic 1? Well, I feel the level design is inconsistent with what it wants its focus to be, the pacing can be rather hit or miss, and the lows can be pretty painful to go through. However, I still think this title has worth today. Green Hill Zone's philosophy will later result in games that I think are truly stellar in quality, and it distinguished Sonic from Mario so much. Green Hill Zone became almost as iconic as Sonic himself during the 90s because of how fun it was to play, and for that I applaud it. The game may be my least favourite in the classic quadrilogy, but I can still enjoy myself with it.